Hey class, let's jump into our plan set and start to learn how things are organized and how to access the information that's provided here in these 11 pages of pretty informative drawings. The first page in most architectural sets is going to walk you through, it's almost like a table of contents. It's how to access the information and how to find things within the drawings, but also organizing things like, we call them schedules. And in this case, they're assemblies. So let's look at this first page here because it really gives us a sense of how to access information. So on the first page, we have things like a key plan. This tells us where the structure is located that we're looking at building or constructing. That's listed as a key plan. It tells us things like the main intersections, where the access points are. In this case, where the nearest fire hydrant is. That's for zoning compliance, but also for us could be helpful for in case of emergency to know where that's located. It also has some zoning information. So we have a bylaw diagram that this laneway house has to comply with. So that is what that is for. Also for zoning, we have an elevation of the existing rear of the house, things like heights. So not relevant to the building of the new structure, but relevant to zoning for this permit application. We also have this thing called an Obc Matrix. We're building on Ontario. So we have the Ontario Building Code Matrix. And this walks through how this new structure aligns with the Ontario Building Code, how it is associated with different sections or parts of the code, and really its information as it applies to code compliance. So we have where the house is, zoning, and OBC compliance. So as far as our takeoffs and estimating, these are less relevant to us. The most important things for us are going to be the drawings, where things are located. So A, which is an architectural set, we have our cover sheet with sort of our access of information. Things like our site plan, floor plans, etc. are all listed here. We also have an indication of the mechanical set. In this case, there's 7 drawings for mechanical. The other thing that's really helpful for us is this left-hand column here, which is our assemblies. So when we're organizing information on a drawing as it relates to specifications or assemblies, they're organized in schedules. So in this case, we have a wall and partition schedule, floor and roof schedule, and this definition of assembly tags. You also, in future pages, might have things like on page A8, a door schedule, a window schedule, and a finish schedule. So this piece up here is really definitive for us to understand what it is we're building. As we refer to future pages, like in this case, the floor plans on A1.0, so I'm turning until I find A1.0, I can pull this back, and if I find a reference here, on the left of the second floor plan, W1, and here I can find P1, and here in the rear I can find W1 again and W1A. If I want to know what these are, I can flip back to my partition schedule or wall schedule, find W1, and learn that it is a 2x6 wood framed 16 inches on center wall, insulated with rock wool with 6mm poly and 5/8 type X drywall. So really helpful. Tells me the cladding type, whether there's a rain screen or not. And if I go to my partition type 1, so P1, I know that's a 2x4 wall with 2x4 studs, 16 inches on center, with 1/2 inch gypsum wall board, that's GWB, on both sides. So this becomes my key to understanding what all the references are. And it's key to looking at whether the W1 is in a diamond, whether it's in a hexagon. So that shape also makes a lot of importance. So looking at these is important, and it also allows it to access, what are the floors constructed of? What are the floor assemblies? So F1 is defined, that's slab on grade. F2 is the second floor framed assembly, that's F2. And then we have a roof assembly. So that's listed as R1. So if we want to flip to things like our sections and go, well, how does that roof come together? What does it look like? I'm going to go up here to my drawings and look down and let's go to longitudinal section. So A3.0. And I flip my plan until I find A3.0. And if I look up top, up to my roof structure, I can see that, the roof is indeed identified as R1. And if I want to clarify whether that is a TGI or that is a 2x10 dimensional roof joist, I can confirm that in the schedule. I can also see that this framed floor assembly for the second floor is identified as F2, and the slab on grade is identified as F1. So if I flip back to that schedule, I can indeed learn that F1 is a 5-inch slab that's helpful to know for takeoffs. F2 is a 9.5-inch TGI, so not dimensional lumber. This is an engineered product. And then the roof as well is a 9.5-inch TGI. So the whole thing is using engineered lumber. Very helpful to understand when doing takeoffs to break down these plans. So being familiar with the assemblies for both walls and roof and floor, understanding how to access the drawings here is really the first part of learning about your project as you navigate through things. When you start to learn about your project, the easiest way I find to do things is start with the floor plans. So this plan is nicely organized on A1.0 in this case. We have a ground floor plan up top. We have a second floor plan below that. Because the structure is quite small, it can all fit on one page. To the left-hand side of it, we also have a RCP, so a reflected ceiling plan, showing us the ceiling view, giving us indications of lighting and switching, and also ceiling finishes. So all that's really effective. And when you notice, we have things like, in circles, PTO2, in this case on the floor for the ground floor plan, FF01. These are giving us indications of what the finishes are for the floor as it's looking down, and the RCP for the finished ceiling of what the material is. So we want to know, well, what does PTO2 mean, and what does FF01 mean? We want to flip to things like the finish schedule. So back on the first page, we learned that that is AA.0. So flipping to AA.0, we go all the way to the back, so AA.0. If I pull this back, I get a sense of what this is my door and hardware schedule. I have my door legend. I've got a finish schedule here. I can see that FF01 is a typical concrete floor, concrete slab with trowel finish. They're grinding it to 400 grit polish, so it's a polished concrete floor, and they're giving us a top coat. And for the ceiling, we had PTO2, I believe, in that main floor. And that is a true white and matte finish, and giving us a sense of what the actual drywall product is as well. So all that's really helpful to organize the information. So rather than each drawing going back to that floor plan, rather than the architect or client needing to say, on this plan, this is going to be polished concrete, or this is painted drywall, and it's this color from this manufacturer, it's telling you to reference to a schedule. It simplifies how many times that finish or that paint is written all over all the plans. It's telling you go to this one central place, and that's where you find out what that is made of and how it is painted, what that finish is. So all the cases where we find things with notes, they're referring to a schedule. So if we look at our floor plan again on A1.0, we'll notice that in front of windows, there's a number, so 2. We look at doors, there's D3, D203A, D203B. And if we want to go to figure out what those are, again, we go to A.0, door and window schedule. And my guess is we can determine, based on the schedule, what those assemblies are. So here in our window schedule, we have window 2. It gives us the manufacturer. This is low-end window. It's metal clad. Gives us a color. Tells us whether it's single glazed or double glazed. Also tells us height and width, and also opening. So this is our hinge for an awning window, and gives us a sense of how that window operates. Additionally, if we go to our door schedule, we can learn that that door on the second floor was, I think it was D203A and B. It's in the bedroom. It's a hollow core door. Gives us a leaf size of the door size, so it's 25 by 84. Thickness also gives us the paint finish and details about the pole. So very, very helpful to understand first how to access the schedules and partition and wall schedules, looking at the drawings to understand where you find information. And once you get to a page, when you see references to things in this case, ovals, it's door schedules. Things in hexagons, it's window types. Things in diamonds, it's referring to wall types and partition types. Circles are looking at finishes. So being aware of how your drawing is organized is critical to understanding how to access the information, 2, understand how to construct the building and all its layers, and 3, as we will learn, most importantly, how to break it down into its component parts and put it into an estimate sheet. Okay, good luck.